I'm Nancy Katchungira and our sign language interpreter is William Silla. Now let's start with some reassurances. Nairobi will be safe during the holidays. Nairobi Police Commandant has assured the residents of Nairobi that there will be ample security during Christmas and the New Year. He's instructed all police officers on leave to report back to work for the hectic festive season. Here's Ashamwilu with that report.
The festive season is officially on, and that could mean one thing for police in Nairobi: a security nightmare.
We have converged here to discuss, to exchange notes.
But Nairobi Police Commandant Benson Kibue says no incident will escape his officers. In a security meeting with all OCPDs and DCIOs in the county, Kibue made clear his plans.
We don't have any police officer who is currently on leave. And if at all we have any officer that you know who is currently on leave, please expeditiously recall that officer, because we need to be, all of us, engaged in our duties so that we can be able to arrange security arrangements so that we have a crime-free Nairobi.
With the Security Laws Amendment Act now in place, police are planning massive operations in Nairobi before the year ends.
Let's go out and ensure that we carry out impromptu operations, impromptu search within those various stages, so that anybody coming out to board those vehicles will get him, or we get him before that person boards those buses and do nasty thing.
For those planning to indulge in alcohol this holiday, Kibue has only one warning for you.
We're going to cover all the roads, and we are partnering with the National Transport and Safety Authority. We are going to have mobile vehicles patrolling our major highways, just to be checking out on those cases of overspeeding and drunk driving.
The National Transport and Safety Authority says it has acquired more speed guns and breathalyzers ahead of the festivities and plans to intensify its operations along major highways in the county. 4,000 drunk drivers were arrested and arraigned in court this year, with NTSA confirming that 2,771 people have died so far on the roads this year, a 9% drop from last year's figure of 3,051.
We will not be going out arresting people and placing them in the cells. No. We'll assist them to sober out, and then we release them. So, Alcoblo team, Mr. Maburi. Yes. So, Alcoblo, iwekwe kamili sasa.
The county commandant also dished out stern warnings to police officers.
To those officers who let out firearms to criminals, the sentence, you know the sentence, very stiff.
With Kenyans having spent last Christmas on the edge owing to the various security threats, all eyes will now be on the police as the country hopes for an incident-free festive season. Ashamwilu, KTN.
Now, a Mombasa court has charged 10 terror suspects with robbery with violence. The 10 are believed to be members of a terror gang which killed a policeman and robbed him of his weapon in Kilifi County 2 weeks ago. This comes as 43 suspected members of the Mombasa Republican Council also appeared before the same court, charged with engaging in criminal activities.
The 10 suspected members of a terror gang were brought to court under tight security. The accused appeared before Mombasa Senior Principal Magistrate Richard Odenyo. They are accused of killing Athanas Kilonzi, who served as an administrative police officer at Mwinamwinga Chief's Camp in Kaloleni, using machetes after robbing him of his G3 rifle. One of the suspects, Kahindi Karisa, faced a charge of administering an oath to members of the Mombasa Republican Council, MRC, and being in possession of witchcraft charms. On the night of December 11th, a machete-wielding gun raided an administrative police camp in Mwinamwinga area, Kaloleni, Kilifi County, and killed a corporal in charge of the camp. 2 of his colleagues were injured during the attack. The attackers took off with one G3 rifle and 19 rounds of ammunition. When charges were read to the accused, they denied robbing off a police officer his G3 rifle and immediately used violence to kill. Defense lawyer Wycliffe Makasembo asked the court to release the accused on bond of between 10 to 20,000 shillings because they were still innocent until proved guilty.
The innocent persons were randomly picked up by the police. So the real criminals are still out there.
Assistant Director of Public Prosecutions Alex Muteti opposed their release on bail, arguing the accused were facing serious charges. The magistrate will rule on whether they should be released on bond on January 22nd. In the same court, 43 suspected members of Mombasa Republican Council were charged of belonging to an outlawed criminal organization. State lawyer Peter Kiprop opposed their release on bond, saying they were dangerous and police suspect they could rejoin other members who are still at large to cause insecurity in the region during the festive season. Patrick Amimo, KTN.
And from the courts in Mombasa, let's come back to Nairobi City. Now, if you are a resident here in Nairobi, then you only have less than 10 days before your analog television signal is switched off. The Communication Authority of Kenya has launched a campaign to sensitize Kenyans on the importance of the migration. Our reporter Philip KTN with more.
Official, the analog switch-off date for Nairobi and its environs is December 31st, 2014, with local media houses and Nairobi residents now finding themselves with less than 10 days to comply with the migration regulations or miss out on their favorite programs.
In terms of blind spots, yes, this is our regulatory work, and until people had bought a set of boxes, we wouldn't know exactly which areas had blind spots to make sure that the signal distributors have been able to put up small transmitters to be able to cover those blind spots.
The Standard Group, the Nation Media Group, and the Royal Media Services, which had engaged the Communication Authority of Kenya in a protracted legal suit against the switch-off of their broadcasting services, had sought a further 4 months extension to put in place the necessary infrastructure for digital migration, but their request was denied.
Challenges that have come about as a result of the technological changes in the kind of STBs you are using are not the kind that government can ameliorate from the point of view of we ought to have done this 2 years ago. We were ready to do it, frankly. We were ready.
Television viewers who will not have invested on TV set-top boxes gadgets that convert analog signal to digital will be switched off, while broadcasting houses that will not have moved their content to the digital signal distributors risk being put out of business. CA estimates that out of the 1.2 million homes in Nairobi with analog television sets, more than half of them have migrated. Others put the estimated number of TV sets in Nairobi at 2 million.
We have made the consultations. We have fulfilled all the orders, and I think this morning we were filing our report to the High Court with regard to the fulfillment of the orders that they were given to us.
Digital transmission is expected to bring viewers pictures and sound clarity, more channels and signal strengths, widening the stretch of TV services while freeing frequencies for other services like the 4th generation 4G mobile data services. The switch-off will, however, be rolled out in 3 phases. First phase of the switch-off will be December 31st, 2014, will cover Nairobi and its environs, while the second phase, set for February 2nd, 2015, will cover Mombasa, Malindi, Nyeri, Meru, Kisumu, Webuye, Kakamega, Kisii, Nakuru, Eldoret, Nyahururu, Nanyuki, Machakos, Narok, Londiani, and Rongai. The third phase will be implemented on March 30th, 2015, and cover Garissa, Kitui, Lodwar, Lokichogio, Kapenguria, Kabarnet, Migori, Voi, Kibwezi, Namanga, and all other remaining sites.
The digital generation that understands the meaning of migration have been very impatient. I've gone to numerous meetings where I meet, young Kenyans who tell me, so what is the matter? When are we moving to, the next level?
In the East African region, Tanzania and Rwanda have completed their migration. Failure to meet the international deadline set for June 2015 will mean the country will have to switch off all its analog signal within a 100-kilometer radius from its borders so as not to interfere with the signals of other countries. Philip KTN.
With the end of the year comes the end of analog TV. Now, we've been talking quite a bit about security in Nairobi in this bulletin. Our big Q is on that. But reports reaching us from Wajir right now actually say that one Kenya police reservist has been killed and another one is in critical condition after they were attacked by unidentified gunmen. This is happening right now. We've also been informed that the attackers fled with the officers' weapons. Information is still rather scanty on this incident, but of course we will keep you informed as details continue to be received in our newsroom. And let's go further afield. The African Union wants the International Criminal Court to conduct a post-mortem on how it's handled African cases so far. Deputy Chairperson of the African Union Commission, Erastus Mwencha, says that African nations are concerned with the court's engagement with African nations. The AU has in the past accused the Hague-based court of targeting African nations, a claim that the ICC has refuted. All of the cases the International Criminal Court has looked into in its 12-year history have been from Africa. Erastus was speaking at the launch of the Second General Assembly of the AU's Economic, Social and Cultural Council.
The African Union wants the International Criminal Court to conduct a post-mortem of how it has handled African cases so far. Deputy Chairperson of the African Union Commission, Erastus Mwencha, says that African nations are concerned with the court's engagement with African nations. The AU has in the past accused the Hague-based court of targeting African nations, a claim the ICC has refuted. All of the cases the International Criminal Court has looked into in its 12-year history have all been from Africa. Erastus was speaking at the launch of the Second General Assembly of the AU's Economic, Social and Cultural Council.
If you look at the performance of the International Criminal Court, it has performed below par in many ways. Shoddy kind of investigations, profiling Africa more than another, and being seen as a tool that is not independent.
In the wider Western region, a traffic crackdown landed several motorists on the wrong side of the law. The National Transport Safety Authority was on the lookout for traffic offenders, and they were in plenty. Some motorists found to be speeding were arrested and taken to court, while passengers without seatbelts were fined on the spot. The NTSA has been urging road users to be especially careful on the road this festive season.
What I can provide people, they are our customers. Yes. Let them comply and it will give us easy time.
Finally, a look at news coming from Garissa County, where residents of Fafi took to the streets of a disputed land ownership. A private developer claims he has been allocated a section of the land for purposes of oil exploration. The residents here are, however, having none of it, saying the land belongs to them as they have been grazing their livestock here for years. Edith Kimani, KTN.
The global Islamic finance world is worth an estimated $2 trillion, a fact that has inspired great interest in the sector and the opportunities that it presents. Locally, firms are positioning themselves to capitalize this growth, which has transcended from just banking to insurance, reinsurance, and even investment. While Consulting, Kenya's first Islamic finance advisory group, is looking to take this to the next phase of growth.
Islamic banking has been growing at a very high rate in Kenya. Just in a nutshell, what is Islamic banking and what differentiates it from the other conventional methods of banking?
Well, Islamic finance is ethical finance, and what that basically means is your money or your lender, your financier, can only give you money for certain projects, so they restrict your investments. The second one is Islamic finance works on a profit-loss sharing scheme where interest is not involved.
How big is the Islamic finance world at the moment, and how fast has it been growing?
Globally, is a $2 trillion industry. Now, if you talk about a $2 trillion industry, which is growing at a 15 to 20% growth rate annually, that says that it's something that is now no longer just a niche. It is something that is everybody's paying focus to.
Islamic finance is just about 6 years old in Kenya, and we've seen it grow from banking to insurance. What's your take on this growth?
I think the growth that, well, definitely, I think now we have a lot more savvy Muslims who want to practice their faith in its entirety, in the sense that they want to also do their business in using Islamic financial principle. Also, our government and a lot of the banks here have wanted to look into setting up an Islamic bond. So just having that as a conversation has also been a driving force in the sense that we understand that if we open up the doors to Islamic finance, a lot of things like our projects, infrastructure, project financing will be taken care of by bringing in this sort of alternative investments into the country.
Now, every CEO in the financial sector in Kenya is talking about venturing into the Islamic, world. Just what's your take about this, and why is this conversation necessary?
A lot of the conventional banks in Kenya are looking to have financial inclusion because Islamic finance or areas that are predominantly Muslim are also severely underbanked, and this is untapped wealth. If you look at the northern part of Kenya or the coastal region, the majority of the people there are either unfamiliar or reluctant to participating in banking as we understand it because they feel it goes contrary to their faith. So what has been recognized by the financial players is that they need to tap into this market.
The government of Kenya has plans to go out with an Islamic bond, the Sukuk. What opportunities does this present?
The opportunities are vast. We have roads to be built. We have a port to be, several ports that, we're looking at. We have, business opportunities that we're looking, infrastructure, buildings, real estate, and Islamic finance can help that through structuring a Sukuk.
A majority of firms listed on the NSE are not Sharia compliant. Is this inhibitive to maybe investors who are keen about investing within the Islamic law?
The fact that we don't have the tools or the means that the structures in place is hindering and hampering the industry.
Finally, what needs to be done maybe to make Islamic finance in Kenya more attractive to investors?
We need a regulatory framework that works to regulate the industry, harmonize. We need a national Sharia board that oversees the other Sharia boards, and this can only come again from our authorities.
The governments of Kenya and Sudan plan to work closely to tackle extremist elements that are threatening the security of Kenya and other nations in the region. During a meeting led by President Uhuru Kenyatta and Sudanese Foreign Affairs Minister Ali Ahmed Karti, the two countries agreed to create channels through which the security organs of the two countries will exchange information and ideas. The news comes as Kenya signed 2 bilateral trade agreements with Sudan that seek to increase trade relations and foster a closer economic cooperation between the two states.
Very long-standing and very warm and cordial relationship.
Our political relationship is by far more than the economic one, and we are trying to take our economic and business relationship to the levels that we are enjoying in the political arena.
The two ministers maintained that terrorism remained a major international threat and undertook to work further in fighting the vice through sharing information and addressing issues that lead to radicalization of the vulnerable youth. Alongside fighting terrorism, the two ministers undertook to cooperate in fighting and containing money laundering and human and drug trafficking.
A giant French cement manufacturer has filled its slots on the board of the East African Portland Cement Company, EAPCC, as the government reasserts its authority by reappointing Bill Lay as chairman for a 3-year term. The move negates recommendations by a task force appointed by President Uhuru Kenyatta, which found that Portland Cement does not qualify as a state-owned company, and therefore government cannot appoint the chairman of the board. The biggest shareholders are Lafarge with 42%, the National Treasury with a 25% stake, and the National Social Security Fund NSSF with a 27% stake. The government has been citing the combined Treasury and NSSF stake of 52% to declare the firm a parastatal. But the task force appointed said that the shares owned by NSSF do not belong to the state but to contributors, and therefore government cannot appoint the chairman. The government, however, wants Lafarge to dilute its shareholding in Portland Cement because the company has a monopolistic stake in Kenyan industries, given its 59% of Bamburi cement. Meanwhile, Lafarge has appointed Kungu Gatabaki and Professor Sarone Olesena to replace Titus Naikuni and Hamish Keith, who have both retired from the board. As part of its strategy to widen its footprint, technology firm Huawei is investing billions of shillings in research, development, as well as training. And some of the beneficiaries are 9 Kenyan engineering students who have benefited from a skills exchange program. KTN's Abby Agina is back from China and brings us the latest on how Kenyans are getting value out of the partnerships being struck by multinationals and locally based ICT firms.
The drive for increased market share is pushing a number of multinational firms to get a foothold in the emerging economies of Africa. And Kenya, being one of the untapped markets in the region, has attracted significant attention from tech giants like Huawei, Samsung, IBM, Google and Nokia.
Huawei is building the pipe for the ICT industry and also providing terminals for the industry.
Okay. But what is it that makes Africa so attractive? According to Huawei's Roland Sladek, the answer lies in Africa's growth potential.
For the first half of this year, 2014, the company grew by 19%, which is really significant, outpacing the sector.
And Roland says Huawei is looking to grow its market share in the Kenyan market by well over 25% to capitalize the increasing popularity of the mobile phone.
Well, it has been an eventful year for Kenya, and analysts have the feeling that there's a lot of growth prospect for the country, especially in the ICT, infrastructure and the tourism sectors.
Apart from offering technology solutions and devices in the fast-growing ICT sector, Huawei says the human capacity element is what will be its next differentiator in a sector that is riddled with underskilled techies.
Kenya is the first Africa country we launched this program.
So for us, these students will have a global exposure.
The lack of high-end skills in the tech industry has locked out many young graduates from securing decent jobs available at multinational tech firms. And to this extent, Huawei has begun training young engineering graduates under a program dubbed Seeds for the Future. The first batch has just graduated from the Huawei campus in Shenzhen, China.
It has been able to bridge the gap between what I'm actually taught in school and the hands-on experience. We'll work towards improving and making our city a digital city.
The partnership marks a milestone between technology firm Huawei and the Kenya ICT Authority. ICTA's Deputy CEO, Eunice Karaoke, tells me bridging the skills gap is one of the sure ways of ensuring we develop sufficient human capacity in the technology sector.
Huawei is being proactive. Indeed, the ICT industry, especially the multinationals, have showed an unprecedented level of proactiveness. So instead of complaining, they're taking matters into their hands, and they're giving these students who are otherwise very talented, but they only lack a little bit of practical experience in a real working environment.
And although the technology industry continues to undergo massive advancements, the hope is that technology firms will keep developing local capacity. Abby Agina, KTN, reporting from Shenzhen in China.
Good opportunity for those students. Now, Tanzania's gross domestic product has expanded by 32% after the state rebased its calculation to incorporate new sectors in the economy, including big discoveries of natural gas. According to the National Bureau of Statistics, its GDP stood at 69.8 trillion Tanzanian shillings after the rebasing, up from a previous estimate of 53 trillion shillings. Farming remains Tanzania's economic mainstay, while tourism, mining, communications and financial services are the other key sectors. Tanzania has also made more big natural gas discoveries, with revenues expected to give a boost to the economy by 2020. The base year for calculations was changed to 2007 from 2001, and the NBS said that GDP growth for 2013 was subsequently revised up to 7.3% from 7% previously. The rebasing comes just months after Kenya's own rebasing efforts, which saw the country's economy revised up by 25% to $53.4 billion in 2013. The Communication Authority of Kenya Director Francis Wangusi has urged sportsmen and women to refrain from the use of performance-enhancing drugs to achieve global success. Wangusi's call was prompted by the latest doping cases that have hit athletics in the country and beyond, with the sport risking a decrease in the number of sponsors. He was speaking during a check presentation ceremony where the Communication Authority of Kenya joined a list of other sponsors for the 2014 edition of the Sports Personality of the Year Awards, Soya, that will be held on the 16th of January. On his part, Soya Awards founder and patron Paul Tergat emphasized the importance of recognizing sportsmen and women who have been outstanding. Some of the categories include Coach of the Year, Comeback of the Year, as well as the Community Hero category.
We are looking in terms of recognizing and our sportsmen and women who have done exceptionally very well throughout the year.
We as CA are very privileged to get associated ourselves with the teams of Kenyans that are spirited in trying to ensure that our young talents are nurtured, encouraged, and of course they are able to reach competitive levels that would make our country proud.
Now, despite being introduced into the country just a little over 2 years ago, Kabaddi as a sport is already bearing fruit, with one Kenyan currently playing in the Indian Pro Kabaddi League. 25-year-old Simon Maina Kibura is among the reliable players for Puneri Paltan, that is part of 8 teams taking part in the Indian Pro Kabaddi League that premiered in July this year.
Simon Maina was among the first Kenyans to develop an interest in Kabaddi, a sport that has its origin in India, when it was first introduced in Kenya slightly over 2 years ago. Without wasting time, he checked out Kabaddi videos on YouTube and read up all the rules that he needed to get the game started. His superb understanding of the sport saw him earn a selection to the national team that took part in the Kabaddi World Cup last year. Maina is currently the only Kenyan playing in the Pro Kabaddi League in India after he landed a 2-year contract with Indian outfit Puneri Paltan. His height and fast pace were some of his strongest selling points.
For the tournament in India last year.
For the circular?
Yeah, circular Kabaddi. So they came back in Kenya and they saw there was a potential. So they called the Kenya Kabaddi Association, and that's where I was picked from, because they believed that I will go and I can just make them proud.
The circular Kabaddi is what most of the players in Kenya have mastered, and Maina admits he struggled to adjust to the rectangular Kabaddi, which is currently trying to popularize in Kenya during his break. It's through numerous local Kabaddi tournaments that the Kenya Kabaddi Association has been able to spread the sport across counties. In a tournament organized last weekend, teams from Thika, Kiambu and Nairobi battled it out as they also got to learn new techniques from the likes of Simon, as well as 2 visiting Pro Kabaddi players from India.
Simon at India when he came to the World Kabaddi Cup. So when he met at here, I feel very lucky. So it's feeling good about playing Kabaddi. The guys at here are well performed.
With the kind of buzz the sport is creating, there could be more Kenyan Kabaddi players boarding flights to India in the near future. But is Kabaddi capable of paying the bills?
For now, the kabaddi I play, it's paying my bills.
Kenya will host the inaugural Africa Kabaddi Championships, in which countries like India and Iran are expected to participate in the tournament as guest teams. Despite originating from India and only making its way into the country just a few years ago, kabaddi as a sport is gaining popularity amongst the Kenyans, while the federation is hoping to aid in spreading the sport amongst the rest of the African countries. Lynn Washira, KTN.
Learning the sport on YouTube has taken him to international tournaments. Very inspiring. Now, Stoke City do have the uphill task of stopping Jose Mourinho's Chelsea tonight, a side that is well-oiled this season with the Barclays Premier League title within their reach. Chelsea has only lost a single match against Newcastle this season, and with their notable absentees like Didier Drogba back, Stoke do have their work cut out for them.
Welcome to the studio.
Thank you, Hassan.
Stoke City will be at home against Chelsea.
Yes.
And many fans out there feel that this is the wrong time for Stoke City to face Chelsea.
It's the wrong time for anyone to face Chelsea, Hassan. It's the absolute wrong time. I mean, Chelsea right now are just absolutely indomitable. In their last game against Hull City, they took it 2-0. Although, let's not forget that Hull were actually one man down at one point.
Yes. In the last 10 meetings, Chelsea has won 7, drawn 2, and lost 1 against Stoke City. And when you look at those statistics, do you feel it's a walkover?
I mean, the people with the task here is really Stoke. It's not Chelsea. Chelsea basically have all to play for it. They have all to win for it. And Mourinho's men right now, they're doing very well in regards to the 4-2-3-1 formation that they particularly prefer sometimes. They have players to fill in all positions.
If you're Mourinho, will you rest your best players? You know, I'm talking about the likes of Costa.
Yes.
Do you rest them so that you wait for maybe a tougher opponent, maybe?
That's a tactic that they employed actually in the Champions League. So I can definitely rest some players. However, do not take it for granted.
Stoke City is a side that has very tall players. I'm talking about the likes of Peter Crouch.
Yes.
I mean, how do you get the best out of such players against, you know, a well-coordinated side,
yes,
you know, Chelsea?
In set pieces, he's extremely good. You have a youngster coming up, likes of Bojan Krikic, getting in very good assists. And what I'm liking about him is he's getting in the assists.
He's adapted so fast to the Barclays Premier
He
League.
really has. It's incredible. And he has the goals to back up the assists. So I can say Stoke also have some power in this game. So let me go with 3-1 on this. Costa is one to look out for. The midfield is doing very well. You have Oscar on the wing. Things are going well. Yes.
Well, viewer back at home, Ida feels that Chelsea is going to win 3-1. What's your take? What do you make of the match? You know, it's going to be one crack of a match, and many people feel that Chelsea will bag the 3 points against Stoke City side that seems to have, you know, fluffed their lines in recent times. So talk to us, SMS KM 79079, or go to our website, sportspesa.com. Talk to us and you could be a winner. I mean, Christmas is just around the corner.
It was great to have you on this edition of KTN Prime. Thank you so much for joining me. Our sign language interpreter this evening was William Silla. I'm Nancy Kachingira. I look forward to seeing you again tomorrow. For now, though, it's good night and God bless you.